There's something very strange about putting a comment and pinning it to the top of your videos, where you indicate your microphone is failing and that's why the audio was a problem, only for the people to ignore that and comment that there was an audio problem. I'm not entirely sure what to say there. I am obviously trying to replace this snowball. It has lasted me 2 years though, so I think I'll just get a new one. I also want to address this comment before we even get into the subject of today's video. Foul language and pompous tone. We just call it posh twatovi. And the foul language? Does anyone honestly care if profanity is used? Does it take away from the point I make in the video? I put a considerable amount of effort into what I made yesterday, so to only be picked up on foul language. The audio issue, yes, but the foul language? There wasn't much of it. Picky. I've asked YouTube not to send me any of your video. It's videos. And the fact you even click on them in the first place is a damning statement about you. If you don't want to watch them, why do you keep clicking on? Also, since YouTube never get back to anyone, certainly with Twitter, with YouTube's help Twitter page, and nobody getting anything from them, did they answer you? Or did you just report me? I would like to know. Although, if you did get an answer, is there some kind of clandestine group that I don't know about? Do I need a tinfoil hat for this? Where my views are going down, and this is because of your intervention, Mr. Something, I can't pronounce your last name. Change your tone, demanding, or expect only an audience of trolls. I made a very serious video on the subject of a no-deal Brexit. I was conveying what we knew so far, and the potential for what would happen should a no-deal occur. You believe I am somehow pompous and inciting the trolls. You, sir, are a fucking bellend. Is that enough of a tone change for you, you colossal retard? Sorry, I almost fell out of character for a second. Now, the subject of today's video is going to be about a recent defacing of a statue, because this is all quite peculiar. Now, for those that don't know, there was a statue built of a Sikh soldier to commemorate the involvement of the Indian people who fought for Britain during World War I, and it wasn't long after its unveiling that it was vandalized. There is a video of it, but unfortunately all I have to go on are these pictures. These are all that we have as far as identifying those that did it. And I think it's important that these kind of statues exist. They show a fantastic coming together of people to fight against a common enemy. Although many would certainly argue the pros and cons of World War I, it was still nice to know that we had allies regardless of the fact that, Britain kind of owned India. The statue itself cost £30,000 and was commissioned by the Sandwell Council. It's only a 10-foot statue, but I think it's one truly nice gesture to show how much we appreciate what they did for us. Now the police initially, and this is the part that gets people thinking, gets the almonds moving, is that it? Doesn't matter. They were initially treating this as a racially aggravated criminal damage, with Sergeant Bill Gill from the Smethwick neighbourhood team saying, "We understand that this attack has caused a lot of concern in the community, and we are working to understand the reasons behind it and identify whoever is responsible." The statue Lions of the Great War was, as mentioned, commissioned by Sandwell Council, but by Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smethwick Temple, and was unveiled back on the 4th. By Friday, it had been sprayed with the words "Sepoys No More," which is a term referring to Indian soldiers who served in the British Indian Army or for other European armies. A black line was also, as you can see in this image, scored through the words of the Great War and replaced with "One Jan Oil," with many people on Twitter especially speculating this referred to Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. I can't guarantee I pronounced that correctly. Who was a militant religious leader killed when Indian government forces stormed the Golden Temple in Amritsar in 1984. Understandably, with all this, President of the temple Jatinder Singh said he was disappointed in all of this, and has issued a statement saying, "Working with the council, we won't allow this vandalism to undermine the very strong message created by this new monument and the overwhelmingly positive reaction to its unveiling. What makes this incident particularly distressing is the complete disregard and lack of respect for the significance of the statue and inscriptions installed recently to commemorate the losses felt by many South Asian families who lost their dear ones during the First World War, and to mark 100 years since the end of the Great War. In all honesty, considering the age of those who committed this vandalism crime, it's not a surprise. I'm not saying they have to do things like wear a poppy. I would never say that. You're free to choose what you do. We observe a minute's silence, sometimes two, but I've noticed the younger generations don't do that anymore. Some don't. Some older ones don't either when they're in a rush, which is all the time because apparently no one has time to shut their mouth. But courtesy, of course, is not compulsory, and I am not saying you are in any way obliged to get involved in this kind of stuff. What I really like about these statues, if we can ignore some of the historical elements, certainly with the Commonwealth and the Empire, is that we are still communities. We can look past all the mistakes we've made because we united for a greater good, because we the Tau in it. Space Marines are better, because the Tau do not understand the noble, glorious art of melee. I know, triggering.
I'm sorry, but what did you just say?
The Tau are a cowardly race that only fire upon their enemy so far, never engaging in any form of melee combat.
Is this true, Magnus?
Well, yes.
That is
absolutely disgraceful.
How can they not fight in glorious hand-to-hand, face-to-face combat with their adversaries like all true champions of the battlefield do? Oh, this weaknessing, but that Lazos use that for greater things. I cannot willingly associate myself with such dishonorable creatures. When they want to join the Imperium of Man, they better bring some fucking chain katanas or something.
Councillor Steve Elling, Labour leader of Sandwell Council, said, "We're not quite sure about the motive behind it, but it's clearly very disappointing. While some people have a distorted perception on history, they pick up on people who died for whatever reason, and if they were in any way a bad person or they consider them to be misunderstood, they deem them a martyr for a different cause, or they only see the bad because essentially they are nihilists." Which does draw back to the point I was going to kind of try and make about how young people regard history. Understandably, as we move further and further away from what has happened, there is less importance placed upon it because current year is where all the real problems are. I know that seems a bit facetious on the face of it, but I mean it in the sense that there are greater battles to have on Twitter, greater battles to have for social justice than there are regarding what humans fought for in the grand scheme of things. So some might not take interest in this, which of course they're well within their right to do, and I know I've stated that a few times, but I do want to make it clear, people can care as little as they want about history, as long as you don't go out of your way to try and erase it, which is something they have tried to do by vandalising the statue, which of course didn't work, because the council has now installed, or there already was, CCTV. They have successfully removed the graffiti, which I just want to point out now, Poundland in my town sells lots of spray paint. I know this because I used some to apply a black matte base coat to my Epiphone G400 before I primed it with, well, gold glitter. They've recently started selling graffiti remover where the paint was. Hilarious. Poundland spray paint remover. Now the part of all of this that interests me is that there's another article where it is being theorised, and many Sikhs are in fact saying within Birmingham themselves, that it was one of their own. So the obvious charge of it being committed by far-right racists is being brought into question. It is no longer considered a racial hate crime. Some are saying this because of the references to the Sikh leader from 1984, and the fact that the term "Sepoys no more" is actually a reference to how the British referred to Indian soldiers at the time. Now this statue, as far as I'm concerned, is a huge step in recognising what they did for us. And now some people on Twitter have pointed out some rather interesting little bits about this, with Jasveer Singh saying, "Disgusting to see Great War Memorial vandalised. The strategy of recruitment of soldiers of the British Indian Army was complex and at times questionable, but the sacrifices made were exactly the same. In my mind, any sacrifice is worthy of remembrance, and this statue is actually quite nice. While there are campuses in our country that are trying to hide our history because of what some people did, and forgetting what they have done or what influenced the courses they even use in the first place. This is one of those statues that will, and should hopefully, stand the test of time. It's also quite coincidental this all happened around the time Doctor Who brought out an episode on, well, India in 1940-something. I would have paid more attention to Doctor Who, but my tinfoil hat was twitching at the idea that possibly each of these episodes has made it a point to basically guilt white people. I'll wait until the end of the season before I conclude that thought. And I still find it truly fascinating that Jodie Whittaker gets the same as what Peter Capaldi did when she does 3 less episodes and no Christmas special. Fantastic. This all aside, I hope everyone has a lovely day, and rest in peace, Stanley. Excelsior.